today to HR Recruit's webinar about 4 epic life work effect pillars of smarter hybrid working with Daryl Woodhouse. My name is Amy McLeod and I'm a consultant from HR Recruit. I'm joined today by Daryl, who wrote this book and is going to be sharing further knowledge and discussions around smarter hybrid working. Towards the end of the session, we will have a Q&A session, which will be facilitated through the chat box at the bottom of the screen. There's no email facility, contrary to what Zoom may have informed you. I'm now going to hand over to Daryl.
Thank you very much, Amy. Thanks for having me, and good afternoon, everyone. Really pleased to be here today. I'm just going to pop my screen share on. So as Amy alluded, we've got a bit of a presentation which includes some insights, some advice, some tips on this, especially around this theme of smarter hybrid working, which is obviously a big trending topic at the moment. We're going to do some polls, some interaction during the presentation as well. One, to make sure that you're all listening and paying attention and staying awake, and two, is to help keep up the engagement and build a bit of the rapport and keep that energy up, because sometimes being on a video conference for a while can be a bit de-energizing. And then at the end, obviously, we're going to have some open questions, Q&As, share some best practices from within your own careers and organizations, and finish on a really good high. And so, as you know, this is officially the longest webinar title in the world. I didn't wake up one morning and just decide, oh, I'm going to call a webinar for Epic Life Work Effect Pillars of Smarter Hybrid Working. I had to practice saying that quickly. There's a lot of research behind why that title, and as you would have seen right in and around the registration for today, and in Amy's team's notes prior, I published an ebook in November under this title on this very trending topic, and there's lots of insights, practical advice and guidance in there. So if you haven't seen that already, and if you like some of what you hear through this webinar, I strongly recommend that you go and have a look at that and even share it with your teams, because it's meant to be free and accessible and to help everyone. And as you'll hear through the talk, we're going to be doing lots more insights as to what is the life work effect, what are the 4 pillars of it, how does that relate to smart hybrid working, how can I make that work for me. Now, some of you might be thinking right now, or maybe some of your colleagues who aren't here today, but your colleagues are in your office or even remote working. And whenever we talk about learning and development or personal development, training, thought leadership, webinars, a lot of people often feel, oh, we're already too busy. Why should we do anything with this? I haven't got the time for this. As you'll hear through the webinar, if you stick with us, a little bit of time now goes a really long way, especially if that time is focused on how can we get more from our time, how can we increase our performance, our productivity at work, whilst improving our life-work balance and reducing stress, increasing our energy, our motivation. These are all things I'm going to be guiding you on today. And by the way, I used to feel like this when I was sent on training in my earlier corporate career. I had such a busy day job, always so much to do, long working hours, and I've since learned repeatedly and now accepted that investing a little bit of time now and continually looking to improve and learn and stay on track with the latest insights and techniques, it's a much happier way of living and a much greater way of performing and enhancing one's career or business success. And to give you an idea, some of the stuff I would expect you to be more confident in and to be able to know what to do to achieve improved success beyond this webinar. These are some of the things and some of the key reasons why we want you to stick around on this webinar, why we want you to download that free resource within the ebook. From my own lived experiences and from my client work over the years, these techniques and this methodology, it can really help you achieve and maintain a better version of yourself. It will help you to have a happier life and work balance, improved well-being for yourself and your circle of influence. What's your circle of influence? This is anyone who you have some responsibility for, and also people who have in reverse, basically. So it could be your line managers, could be your peers, your line reports in the household, it could be your family, other halves, your close friends, your wider family circle. All these people have some kind of influence and impact on your life, and you have some kind of influence and impact on their lives. So the healthier and the better you are, and the the greater you increase your productivity and skill in the workplace, you've got more energy and motivation and resilience to support other people, and you have best practice to lead with and pass on to other people. Because a lot of people are struggling at the moment. A lot of people are exhausted. They're not enjoying a life-work balance. They're burnt out or burning out, or they've just come back from a burnout, or they're worried about a future burnout, and they're worried about their security of their jobs, of their company, the impact of the COVID pandemic. Regardless of how close the endemic is, there's still a lot of worry and anxiety. And all my work is geared to helping with all this stuff, not making people feel better about it, but helping them improve their situation. And the best bit of all, for employers and leaders who feel that they don't have enough time for this stuff, we've got to focus day to day, we've got to firefight, we've got so much short-term pressure, we need to focus on that. Well, the beauty is, as I'm going to show you, you can have both. Through my work, through my guidance, my methodology, my best practices, a whole load of research on top of my own that's available globally, you can have a workforce that's happier and healthier, that actually performs even better. And a lot of that comes from balance and know-how. So employers can be wealthier and happier, and employees can be happier, and in turn they'll become wealthier as well, because the company's going to thrive and more likely to keep them in a job and to give them pay rises, and so on and so forth. Lots of different ways you can interpret these messages. So welcome. Very quick insight to myself and my background, because that's important for you to understand the credibility behind and experiences behind some of the advice that I share, but also so that you can get the best of the Q&A later on as well. Typically who I help, who I work with, I typically work with HR professionals and C-suite directors in companies of all shapes and sizes. Particularly more recently, I've been focusing on mid to larger corporates and those larger SMEs. Why? Because I'm on a mission and I want to help as many people as possible to avoid burnout and to maximize their life-work balance and success at work. So yeah, lots of people in senior positions with responsibility for other people. How I help them, I'm a professional speaker, I'm an executive coach, I'm an award-winning business advisor, top 50 out of 12,000, 2 terms straight, and I provide lots of virtual team sessions, on-stage keynotes when we're allowed to travel, at big conferences. I do team workshops, I do one-to-one and group programs, and I do the likes of executive coaching and a lot of change management programs as well, and cultural change, and a lot of advice around strategy. How can a company thrive in this environment without burning out their staff, for example? It's a very hot topic at the moment. Now, everyone gets fed up of that C word, COVID. I'm not going to say it too many times today, but some of the silver linings that we're starting to see from it, if you choose to see them as silver linings, is that it's starting to wake employers up a little bit more to the importance of well-being and life-work balance, and to have proper strategies to reduce, to not just raise awareness of burnout, but to reduce burnout and to tackle it at the source. And that's where a lot of my work sits, tackling burnout in organizations at the source, changing the culture, changing the environment, rejecting that long-standing, always-on, long work hours culture, and showing people the better way. And a lot of that comes under the theme of my interpretation of the smarter future of life and work, which you're about to hear about. And my why? Well, I've always loved helping others. I've always loved mentoring, coaching, training, leading others. But I had some life-changing events a couple of years ago, which turned my previously good life upside down. And I learned the hard way about this stuff on we achieve more when we have a better life-work balance, and we supercharge that by continually upskilling and improving our productivity skills and improving our strategies. And that's some of the stuff I'm going to share with you and show you how today, so that you can go away and do some things differently and enjoy some of the results that I've enjoyed and some of my clients are now enjoying. So to expand on it, a bit of my background, there's an important story here. How did I burn out a couple of years ago, and what did I learn from that? But to share that, I have to start off by talking about some of the positives that I achieved in my career. The first 10 years of my career was in corporate leadership. I was in various leadership, strategy, change management, culture change roles. At age 26 within that career, I was responsible for nearly 700 staff and a 1.1 billion P&L. Achieved some significant successes and results with that national division. And prior to that, I was when I first started my career, I was on a global executive training program with HSBC Group, which is still known today as one of the best global organisations for how it invests and develops leaders of the future. So I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity, and I've progressed from that into various more senior leadership positions, headhunted to a competitor, and in that competitor, that's where I worked up into a national role. So really good stuff that I'm proud of, achieving lots of things at a good age. And for another day, there's a whole load more other achievements and stories within that I'm always happy to share. I didn't really see my longer term future in corporate at that time. I wanted to branch out on my own and had this entrepreneurial instinct. So 10 years ago, almost to the day, I started up my own business and said goodbye to that corporate employment career. Within a couple of years, I'd scaled that business up to 7 figures revenue, international client base of fast growth scale up businesses through to mid corporates and large global corporates. And I built a team providing various services from entrepreneur mentoring to executive coaching to L&D, consultancy and leadership development programs, the design, build and delivery of them, culture change programs and so on. We had won lots of awards, lots of amazing case studies, amazing brands we've worked with, and again achieved all of this at quite a relatively young age, stuff that I'm really proud of. When I was 35, I became one of the youngest executive business school lecturers in the world, part-time. We did that alongside running my own business and being a public speaker, but things that don't necessarily happen to everyone, and hopefully a good sign that I do some good work and I know a few things. So a lot of people, they look at, so some of my history, but a lot of people look at that and they look at some of it in more detail through LinkedIn, for example, or through the darylwoodhouse.com website. And they say to me so many times, like one of the most commonly asked questions I get asked is like, Daryl, how did you achieve all this stuff? And and you still look quite young. In fact, you look younger than you are now. And I say, oh, you're just being too kind. And then on a serious note, I do say, well, there's a couple of key things that I did to be really successful in my career. And the first one is I've always been really good, or it's always come naturally to me to be really productive, to be really good at decision making and time management, to be good at building really powerful, effective strategies in business that work and that succeed and get results quickly. With especially around lean resourcing as well, getting a lot out of a little. So that's stuff that's always come naturally to me, and that's absolutely one of the 2 key things that helped me achieve a number of the things that I've achieved. Now, the second key thing that helped me achieve all these things was working really hard. Now, there's a really important part of the message here, because that working really hard, I was doing it for too many hours, for too many days a week, for too many years. It started in my earlier corporate career and I carried it into my entrepreneur journey. And actually, that's not anything special. Anyone can work hard, really, with a bit of determination, bit of focus. And actually, as I learned later on, it's not actually such a cool thing, and it doesn't bring the best results in the longer term. And so I was part of this very exclusive, amazing club that some of you might be a part of as well. And in that club, is the always on overworking culture. So in other words, I had a massive life work imbalance and was working too much. So if you look at my work achievements, they were good and positive, but actually they weren't necessarily a reflection of what was going on in my life. And I wasn't doing too well in getting the best from life and being healthy and making enough time for my kids and so on and so forth. And what was actually happening for a number of years from this long working hours is that I was burning out. And there'd be moments where I'd realise that the burning out was getting close to a more serious illness and more serious burnout, and then I'd slow down a bit for a few weeks. I might force myself to not work that weekend, or push some meetings back, or something like that. So then I'd feel okay-ish again, and then guess what would happen very quickly after continuing to work hard and long hours? The burning out symptoms would get worse again, and it'd come back, and it's like it's yo-yo for years. But I kept going with it because of a couple of things. It's the way I was conditioned. It's the way I was trained from that early corporate career. If you wanted to get ahead, you needed to be one of the first in the office and one of the last to leave. If you wanted to get those next promotions and stand out from your peers. I remember a day, I still remember it word for word, where I was looking quite pale and wasn't looking after my well-being so much in a particularly busy period of work, and my boss at the time was concerned about me, and he said, "Oh, Daryl, you're okay? I can sense you're really tired and so on." And I said to him, and I just opened up to him. I said, "Yeah, no, I am a bit tired. I'm struggling with sleep at the moment, as part of because I'm working so late. I'm struggling to switch off at night. I'm not having enough, relaxation time and stuff like this." And he said, "Well, Daryl," he said, I know you're really ambitious and determined, and if you want to progress your career, and if you want to keep doing that, and provide for your family and save up for that big house that I know you want, you've got to suck up this stress. You just got to keep going." That was his advice to me, and I laugh now because I know how ridiculous it was, and because I now know how common that attitude is in organisations, particularly in larger organisations. And some of that's being exposed a lot more now through COVID pandemic, with all this debate of between should we be remote working or hybrid, or should we be returning to office. The way that many people's work-life boundaries have become more blurred during COVID because we're living and working in the same building, and we're doing more conference calls at all hours of the day, and so our days are becoming elongated, and so on and so forth. Now, there's a few reasons why I kept working hard. One was that ambition, determination, and that corporate conditioning. Another one was how I responded to childhood trauma, being bullied from age 6 to 18 throughout my school life, and the way I decided to respond to that was to get away from those kids and get into the adult world and build myself a successful career and prove that I was worth something, to prove to myself and to those bullies I wasn't a loser. And obviously I took that trait too far. And when you mix that in with that long hours corporate culture, it was quite a dangerous cocktail. And so for years I had this, I was burning out, and I thought I was okay because I was still quite young and still quite fit and energetic. And it was when something went wrong in my private life in 2016, something that can happen to any one of us at any time, which had created a knock-on effect and a series of other events, some trauma involved, and it just made everything too much when I really was not particularly well. And so now I properly burnt out, and all my symptoms, illnesses I had before, anxiety, on and off depression, irritable bowel syndrome, insomnia, chronic fatigue, um, and some other things. And all of that became a lot worse. I really was struggling to get out of bed in the mornings. I lost a lot of my personality, my confidence, my self-esteem. If any of you have got any experience of this kind of stuff, you'll know how hard it is to get some of these things back, and how much time it can take and effort. And for a good few months, I didn't talk to anyone about this. I was embarrassed. I saw it as a failure. So what I did was, I just kind of crawled through each day, trying to manage work, trying to be present for family. But I was very unhappy, very unwell, very depressed. Um, and and then one day I thought I need to open up. I need to talk to someone about this. I can't hold it in any longer. So I opened up to one close friend, and they were overwhelmingly and surprisingly, but maybe unsurprisingly supportive. Um, they they knew other people that had been through similar things, and say, hey, I wasn't the only person in the world that this had happened to, and I wasn't the only one in the world that had been feeling this way. And that gave me confidence to open up to some more people. Getting therapy was another key step, and and as I'll share more later, some of the positive stuff, what I did to kind of basically t- turn what had become an upside down life, turn it back up the right way, get over these traumas, and to learn from that experience and to rebuild my resilience and to do lots of things that would prevent a burnout like that happening again. I also developed some other medical conditions from my burnout as well, 3 of which need daily treatment for the rest of my life. So for a while that was hard to get my head around, but now I've learned to channel them into positives. These are reminders not to let this stuff happen again, not to slip back into those old habits. Sound familiar? You've gone a great training course, learn those new things, come away with great energy and best intentions. A month later, we've forgotten most of what we learned. We're not applying it. We're carrying on pretty much as we were before the training. What a waste of time and money. So many people do that. And if not you, then most of your teams, most of your line reports will be. So as leaders, we can help these people through awareness and creating a better environment for people to succeed. Now, before I go into some of the positive stuff, because obviously I survived this burnout, I came back, I'm still here. I take this story to the stage now as such, to raise awareness and to help others. But there's some other lessons that I want to just share that are not just about me, they're more of what's going on in society as a whole. And just to, I guess, reinforce with you how burnout and from overworking and this always on culture, the commonality of it. So one recent study, 12 million UK workers have been found to have had job burnout. It's huge. And bear with me, I just need to move something on my screen. Okay. From some of my own live polls I run on LinkedIn and some other client research that I do, this is back in November, 90% of people studied or surveyed had a medium to high concern of burnout in themselves or their colleagues. And that's huge. It's pretty much everyone. It's very much here, even though people don't like to talk about it or to admit it. It's very much here, and not a lot or not enough is being done about it to fix it for the longer term. Within these studies, I also build the relationship and look at the relationship between burnout and overworking, working long hours. 39% of people studied and confessed to overworking big time, way above their contracted working hours, beyond a standard 9 to 5, and 44% overwork sometimes. So again, huge opportunity for us to do better, because as I'm going to show you, we are actually more healthy, more happy, more successful when we work with balance, and we can not have to worry about performing or working less when we then blend all of this stuff in with improving our productivity skills, because improving our productivity then drives up our performance and our success at work even more, hence happier employers and happier employees. And this is my prediction for the way of the future. If you're not convinced yet to do more about this stuff, we're now starting to see lots of studies come out, because it's some of this, the research into this stuff is still quite new. But some studies that come out recently, looking into people working more than 50 hours a week, we're already finding 1.3 times higher risk of stroke, You can see on the screen high risk of depression, anxiety, two conditions that I still have to manage and control. For a lot of people with depression and anxiety, once you have it, it's very hard to get rid of it completely. So it's more about controlling it and keeping it at bay. And sometimes the roller coaster of life can bring it back up, and then you have to do some different things to adjust and to cope through that. But these things can be, really, really nasty things to have to deal with, and things I wouldn't wish on anyone, especially if you get a worse end of the spectrum. And in other illustrations, worst case scenario, as you see on the screen here, these are sorts of things that burnout and overworking can contribute to. Very sad events that are quite hard to come back from. And I certainly have personal experience of a number of these, and obviously through my clients that I've been helping over the last few years. So I'm hoping that you're feeling some call to action from this and desire to want to step up a little bit more and do a little bit more about fighting that overworking culture, finding out how we can be more productive so that people feel like they can give themselves permission to work a little bit healthier hours without affecting performance. Bit of interaction for you now. I've got this poll that I've set up in Slido. If you're not used Slido before, it's probably easy if you do it on your phone, so you can still see this screen, because then you'll see the live results. Go to slido.com and then use that hashtag 480825, and that will bring you to the first poll that we're using today. Now, it's just to pick a rough calculation of how much you as an individual might be overworking. If you're working contracted hours, great. That's fantastic. I just want to see where everyone in this group today, I just want to see where you guys are, and I'll share some other insights around that as well. If you need a bit of guidance on how to calculate it approximately, if your contracted hours are, let's say, 35 hours a week, you could just quickly calculate 25% of that time. So that would be 8.5. So 8.5 hours is 25% of your time. So add 8.5 to 35, that's 43 and a half approximately. So if you're working roughly on average more than 43.5 hours a week, then you'll be in the I work up to 50% above my contracted hours category. And if you're working more than 50% of 35 hours a week, you're in the 75 plus. Like I used to be. I used to be in that category for years. Hours, days, weeks, months of my life I will never get back for fun, because I gave my soul to my business when I was scaling it up, and earlier to my corporate employers. So we've got 8 people have joined in so far. Let's see if we can get that up to at least 20. So let's give you a few moments for that. This is where we find out how many people I've already sent to sleep with my dulcet tones. Amy's laughing because she knows what I'm talking about. Okay, well, I'll give you, by the way, everyone competing is completely anonymous. So if you're nervous to confess, it's anonymous. We don't know what you said or where you're at, because it is quite a sensitive topic, some of this stuff. Big Brother's not watching, as far as I'm aware. So while the rest of you are thinking about this, to come up with an approximate number, what can I tell from this at the moment? Well, the bulk of you as a quick heat test are certainly working hard, and you're working more than you're contracted to consistently. Not too alarming that 82% are up to 25%. Often when we do these with similar groups to yourselves, we tend to have 10 to 15% in the 75 plus category. There's an immediate and quite urgent concern with those people and those teams where that's widespread as well. We'd certainly have a lot more in the up to 50% category as well. Typically, a range can be from 30 to 50%. So we're quite low, but noting that we've only got half of our attendees have joined in at this point, which is fine. Um, Now, whilst it's a bit on the amount of overworking in the room is on the low side, um, now sort of turning your attention to your teams and your workforce that you're responsible for. It's unless you've got an amazing culture of working to normal working hours and where everyone's fit and well and has a great life work balance, and where you've invested in training and systems and processes and excellent communication and cultural change programs to drive up productivity and improve strategic thinking and action within your workplace. Unless you're in any of those criteria, then most of your workforce are going to be overworking. It will range from some industries to another, but you know, overworking, as I showed from some of those public studies earlier, it's huge. And I believe as leaders and people with employees with leadership responsibility, it's our duty to know where others sit with overworking and to educate them and show them a better way of living, a better way of working. So obviously I did come back from this burnout, and you know, how does that bring us to today, to the four epic life work effect pillars of smarter hybrid working. I've already shared that some of the key things I did to come back from the burnout was opening up and getting advice, getting therapy. And another really key thing was starting with a white canvas and looking at my life, my way I'd always been working, and I set some goals of what I wanted my life to look like. And I started with life first. I decided I wanted to do a 4-day working week. I wanted to do the gym 4 times a week minimum. I wanted to see some of my friends at least once a week, lots of time for family, and so on and so forth. I planned all that stuff in, and then I started looking at my business and career goals. And I said, right, what do I need to do in my business and career to make this life happen? It's very simple, but most people don't do it like this. We don't set clear life goals. We have them high level, we certainly won't write them down, and we certainly won't directly tie our business and career goals into them, and using the work as a facilitator to make that life happen sooner rather than later. And where we're factoring life work balance as well. Typically, if we do life planning, it's typically about, I want to earn X amount and I want to buy a house of this value. That we don't have a rounded approach to all other aspects of life that are or perhaps should be important to us. So just by doing that shift, and it was a bit harder than this to implement, but I did it and I focused, and actually I was surprised at how quickly I achieved that 4-day week, and it made me happier, healthier than ever. But the best bit was, and the most surprising bit was that, you know, what happened to my business, my career success. All of a sudden I started attracting bigger, better opportunities, nicer clients to work with. I was winning more awards without even applying for any awards. So loads of amazing things were happening. You know, and the success of the business was growing as well, faster, more easily, and I was working more than half as much as I had been for years. Sorry, I was working half as much as I had been for years. You know, it's just like, wow, this is amazing. And then I started researching the 4-day week and life work balance in a bit more depth, and I learned that it's not just me; it's actually a thing. And there's lots of research to back it up. So I carried on with that focus for myself because I was, you know, loving everything. It was better than ever, and I was kind of wishing I knew and applied this, you know, many years before. But I started repurposing my work to. I was like, I've got to do something with this journey, this story I've been on, to raise awareness, to help others, and to get more organisations aware of and bought into the life work balance culture, and being able to still optimize growth in their company by supercharging productivity through strategy skills, time management, decision making, teamwork, efficiency skills, better lean resource management, and so on and so forth. And that's where I've been focusing my career in the last few years. And it's been going really, really well. And in COVID has even kind of increased awareness, increased demand for this kind of support. One of the things I did through COVID, because our business, like I'm sure yours has, we've had some horrendous challenges and difficulties thrown on us. Um, One of the things it did was when we had initial uh, decline of revenue and demand, and when people were kind of clamming up and shutting off from the world while they navigated the initial period of the pandemic. It gave me some more time. So I used that to think, how can I make my message and my work and my journey more available, more scalable, and accessible to the rest of the world. So I've developed a first of its kind mobile app which helps any user, and it's typically aimed for people with some leadership responsibility in organisations, and it helps them very quickly to get a really clear grasp of how effectively they use their time at work. And we're looking at things like how much time they spend using their strengths, they're doing things they don't like, things that de-energize them and demotivate them, how much time they spend working at their seniority level, and a whole load of other insights. And then the app, as clever as apps and technology can be, and then it shows a very visual representation of where you're at, and then with some in-app gamification and features, some in-app coaching. It then guides the user to create a personal development plan, a transformation planner, just a one-pager, really simple, but to help the user to then, great, I've got these great insights, but now what do I do with them? What actions do I need to take? What new habits do I need to form? And how do I measure the results? So that's a bit about this app as a bit of a game changer for individuals and organizations to improve life-work balance, improve employee well-being, all whilst strengthening the financial position of the company and growing performance, growing productivity. I wouldn't have been able to had the time to do that if COVID hadn't happened. So sometimes there are silver linings if we're open to them and if we look for them. And now to explain the life work effect, because this is some where we go into some of the top tips. Just keeping on my timings. So there's 4 key pillars of the life work effect. And if we are proactive in getting better at all of these things and implementing consistently, then this is my path. This is my step by step. The programs that I have and everything. This is how you can have happier employees and wealthier, happier employers. So the 4 key pillars: number 1, you have strategy and planning, and that includes things like goal setting and then creating the action plans of what you need to do to make those goals happen and bulletproofing them, mitigating risk and threats whilst maximizing opportunities. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about strategy and planning. Productivity mastery, which extends into time management skills, having efficient systems and processes that release us rather than restrict us and hold us back. We've seen that in many corporate organizations, lack of investment in technology, for example. Making sure people have the skills and knowledge and training to be much better with their time, to make better decisions, to reduce procrastination. Just a massive way of limiting our productivity if we continue to procrastinate too much. Life work balance, and the 4th pillar is well-being. Now, interestingly, as I've learned, I learned the hard way initially, and then I've kind of taken this to other companies to prove that it's bigger than me and it works. When you proactively get better at those first 2 pillars, strategy and productivity, it obviously directly improves performance, productivity, and results, which is great. But also indirectly, it improves well-being because there's less stress. People feel happier that we're getting wins, that we're moving forward. There's more money in the company, so we can afford to take on more resource rather than always making us work harder with less resource and making cutbacks. And then there's a whole load of knock-on effect to improved employee engagement, employee motivation, and so on. Then when you jump to the final 2 pillars, life work balance and well-being, when we directly improve those, guess what? We're happier, we're healthier. But also that makes us more productive too. And then when you work across all 4 pillars, then that's where you find this multiplier effect towards even better life work balance, even better well-being, lower rates of burnout, less stress-related absence from work, and the knock-on effect and the cost of that to peers and to employers. And so the journey goes on, and this is why, as a combination, working across those four pillars, there's this multiplier effect towards happier lives and greater work performance. And that's the methodology of the life work effect that I share, and that's a lot of the methodology behind the ebook with the longest title in the world. Now, a little bit of an exercise for you all, a bit more engagement, please. Thinking about those four pillars. Give yourself a score out of 5 for each pillar. Just write it down in your pad, and just roughly. Don't overthink it, but 5 being excellent, 0 being terrible. Just to be honest with yourself, how good am I in our team? How good are we really at strategy and planning? Not just the knowledge of it, but the application of it, the implementation, making it happen, achieving success. And then go through the rest of the pillars. Then I want you to add those numbers together, and that will give you a score out of 20. That's your life work effect score for today. And that's a nice little benchmark. So some of the best practice we take away from today, and the other habits you can pick up from the ebook for free. When you start applying a couple of these new habits and techniques each week, you can then redo your life work effect score. You can see how you're making progress, and you'll see and feel the impact. So once you've got that calculation, let's pop it in here. Again, it's all confidential. No one's judging. And it's just to get a feel of where we're at within the group. 13, good. There's always a range. There'll be some lower, there'll be some higher. And once you've put that score in, and by the way, when a number goes large, it's because more than one person has got the same score. So 2 people have scored 12. Once you've done your score, just take a moment to start thinking, in 3 months' time, what would I like my score to be? Thinking about some of the messages you've heard today already. What realistically do you think it could be in a few months? And start thinking about which pillar you might want to prioritize first. Where's your quickest wins? Where's the one that perhaps needs the most improvement, and where you can perhaps improve it more easily? And think about what that could mean to you in terms of life-work balance, well-being, energy, joy, what it can mean in career success, achieving more, but not working, burning the midnight oil every day. So we've got someone at 17, which is great. I've got a competitor in the room, a fellow productivity ninja. Greetings. And if you have got a high score, again, that's great, because actually you're kind of ahead of the game, and that puts you in a really good place to help your colleagues. Because if you're a 17, I'm telling you now, most people are not anywhere near that. Most people fall in between an 8 and a 12, which is a fantastic opportunity to prevent burnout and to create cultural change that rejects this always on long working hour culture and still performs better. Okay, we've got 7 people. I'm going to keep that poll will be open if you still want to join it later, if you're still getting to it. But we're going to move on now. Productivity is my favourite one of the 4 pillars. I just want to throw a few stats at you to show you why, and to show the power of this, what you can do with productivity. So if you think you're good at productivity already, what can we do to make you great at productivity? And this is some of the stuff obviously I teach and give people the step-by-step help in the app and in my programs. One of my favorite studies is Microsoft Japan. They reduced employee working hours as a trial initially by 20%. Guess what happened to productivity? Went up by 40%. Absolute no-brainer for them to then move that into a permanent feature and to then look at rolling out across the rest of Microsoft. And there's lots of other companies and organizations that have had a similar experience. The 4-day week is becoming more popular now. It's becoming up in the news more regularly as well. Another example of just one thing that you can do to very quickly boost productivity by up to 40%, Multitasking. We all know, we've heard this one before, we all know productivity, multitasking is not good for our productivity, but we still do it anyway. Well, stop it. Stop multitasking. The proof is out there. Go and read up on it, and just break that negative habit. And even just for 2, 3, 4 weeks, just try it for a short period and see if you notice a difference. I think you will. Focus on one thing at a time. And this sets us up, this stat here at the bottom, and this sets up for one of my favorite best practices that I'm going to share in a moment with you on another good way to quickly improve performance and productivity with very minimal effort. And so the stat is that employees who exercise their strengths daily are 8% more productive and 6 times more likely to be engaged, which has huge knock-on effect on a P&L when you run it through across the business or across the team. An exercise for you that I really recommend you do, if not today, then over the next few days or at the weekend, if that's better for you. You might have more headspace, more energy at that point, less distraction from work, hopefully. And it's to, a bit like I did a couple of years ago, to revisit your life goals and think about life balance in there as well. Think about what would a perfect week look like for me. Now, it's really hard to achieve perfection, so you have to be real with yourselves. But just by writing it out in some detail and mapping it out and having it visible somewhere, you're then going to start doing things differently to work towards it and to get closer to that perfect week. Even just getting closer is a much happier, higher performing place to be. And to give you some guidance, because the PDF of these slides will be sent to you as a follow-up from today, so you've got all this to refer back to or to share with your teams. These are just some things to help you picture and map out what your perfect week might look like. And once you've mapped out this as like a goal, this a visualization exercise, then you can start mapping out what do I need to change over the next 3 months to work towards this? What do I need to do? What actions do I need to take? And then you make time for those things in your diary. Or if you need a bit more hand holding, you come and talk to me. And then the bullets I've just added to the slide on the bottom right, this is for the sort of things that you can expect to see off the back of this if you got your team working towards this as well. Some impacts on performance in the workplace. In some recent team workshops, these are some of the common themes that I see on people's challenges and opportunities on how they're going to embrace the life work effect and how they're going to improve things for themselves and for their organization. So I'm sure you can all relate to some of these things. These are all normal and very common, and we've known about these challenges for years. The but is we don't do enough about them and we don't stay consistent. We fall back into old habits. So I'm here to remind you of these things, and if you need it, to help you to break these things, to create some cultural change, to eradicate these barriers from our workplaces. Some more barriers that stop us achieving that perfect life-work balance, burnout prevention, and optimizing success at work at the same time. Just to highlight a couple from here, because you can all read. Time gremlins, and we give away our time so easily, too easily. It's time to stop that. Make time every day to reprioritize, to think more, think more carefully. Do I really need to be in this meeting for an hour and a half? Does it really need to be that long? Do I need to be in that meeting? No, I don't. I'm going to talk to the organizer and explain that then. Because maybe there's something I'm not thought of. Maybe, and then maybe by talking to them, they'll say, actually, no, I need you to input on this bit. Okay, great. So you only need me for the last half an hour then, if I jump in at that point. Is that okay with you? Brilliant, you just saved an hour. So many conversations we can have about meetings. Meetings are a massive way to increase productivity and improve life-work balance. Just as one example. Here's a few more other things that we need to overcome. To pick one, too much emphasis on weak spots. Weaknesses are threats and risks to our business, absolutely. However, What about our strengths? Our strengths tend to come naturally to us for a reason, or it's easier to leverage and improve performance by 10% by focusing on on strengths over weaknesses. Maybe we're professionally qualified or trained in them, which is why we're so good at them. Maybe we love doing them, which energizes and motivates us to do them 4 times quicker than someone who doesn't like doing them, or who hasn't been trained in them. Lots of inefficiencies across teams and businesses where people are in similar job descriptions and expected to be good at all of the same things. We'll break all that down and look at, actually, let's map for the team what our strengths are, who has those strengths and what people's weaknesses are, and see what swapping we can do, create better teamwork. Massive way to supercharge productivity and performance and employee engagement and motivation and staff retention and so much more. So don't ignore weaknesses, but how can we do more to better leverage our strengths alongside that? Massive game changer. Some other quick examples on how you can work smarter and get quick results. The strength in the trio just takes that earlier point about people who use their strengths more often can have a massive boost to performance and productivity. This is quite a powerful but simple one. 3 things you can do to leverage your strengths better. 1, use them for more time. Number 2, use them more frequently. And you can look at your diary and you can map time in to do this and challenge yourself, make time to do this. And thirdly, what actions can you take to get even better at those strengths? Just because they're strengths now doesn't mean they're going to be strengths tomorrow. If a new entrant comes into the marketplace, for example, how can you continue to get better at strengths and continuously improve? Touch typing. This is an incredibly simple one. So few people, and I've surveyed this, so few people have ever done a touch typing course. It doesn't take that long to do a touch typing course. I know because my mum made me do one many years ago, but you can very quickly double or treble your touch typing speed. Now, if you think about how many hours we all sit in front of our computers typing, how much time could we save if we could double the speed in a couple of weeks just by doing an online course for 100 quid? It's incredible. And I have fun sharing that one with organizations and rolling that out. Energy lows. If you're feeling you don't want to do a task, or you're feeling you've got an energy drop, what do we tend to do? If we're not living and breathing the life work effect, we tend to just get on with it and we slog through it. Well, no, don't do that. Notice those energy lows and just take a break, even just 2 minutes, 5 minutes, a walk around the block, go and do some exercise, go and make yourself a hot drink, phone a friend for 5 minutes. Just after doing any one of those activities for a few minutes, guess what? Your energy picks up and you're going to get that task done more easily and quicker. I've tested this. It works. Give it a go. I talked about meetings earlier. Too many meetings, too long, not structured enough. They're not having clear goals and objectives sent around in advance. No one's managing the time, duration and allocation for each talking point to keep it on track, to keep it finishing not on time but early rather than consistently overrunning. Massive, very simple way of getting a lot more time back, improving work performance and improving employee well-being. And have more fun. Happy people are 13% more productive. So make time with your team. If you're working remotely or we're still transitioning to hybrid, get on a conference call as a team for 5 minutes at the start of the day, rotate the chair and have a different person come on each time within the team, and they've gone and prepped an icebreaker or some sort of funny joke or a funny song. They like karaoke and come and sing a song. I don't know. There's so many different things you can do. Hundreds of free ideas on Google. If you just Google fun, quick team icebreakers. Great way to start the day. And when many of us are in isolation, we need that social interaction. It's a great way to boost energy, motivation, productivity, and teamwork. As I move towards the summary and questions that you might have, how to make the life work effect, how to make smart hybrid working work for you. It starts with mindset, listening to what I've shared, believing what I've shared, and then having the desire for a happier life, improved life-work balance, more time for hobbies, family, relaxation, whilst still and whilst recognizing that you can achieve more at work at the same time and keep your employer happy. Don't find the time, make time. Just 5 minutes here and there. A little bit of time can make you a long, long way. Short-term pain for long-term gain. Make time now to get better at productivity and life-work balance, and look at the results you'll gain. We've emphasised that this approach, this smarter way of working and living, it's a win-win for everyone. If anyone would like a free strategy and culture change steer, I'm available. I offer free consultations. I love to hear about different organisations' challenges and troubleshoot and share some other experience and techniques and tips I can help you with. You've obviously got the ebook as well. There's more than 50 smarter habits for living and working within there for yourselves and for your teams. Make the most of it. You can access it through the website, or you can find me on LinkedIn. You'll see it publicised there. And now Amy will see if we've got some initial thoughts, questions at the front of people's minds before we run out of time. I do often overrun. And whilst other people are thinking of those questions, I want you to start thinking about what are the best practices you've heard today that you can take to your teams and discuss with your teams. What are you already doing on some of these themes, and so you can keep doing those, or to do them more often or for more time because you've seen that they work. Create a bit of a change plan, an action plan around it, make it happen. And I'm telling you that even just one new habit a week for 4 weeks has quite a transformational impact, especially when you do this across a team or even a workforce. So try it out. And I love to hear how people get on with this as well. If you get stuck, again, I can help. I can help with that motivation, help you with accountability. Amy, have we got any questions that have come
through? We've got 3 minutes left, so I'm just going to pick out one. So Sarah has said, what is the one change you would recommend the most?
Brilliant question. I would have to say the biggest, the touch typing is probably one of the biggest time relievers, and it doesn't take that long to do these courses. It's like 20 minutes a week for 10 weeks, and you can double, depending on where you're at now, you can double, triple your word count speed. And if you're spending 2 or 3 hours, 5 hours typing in a day, that's a massive time saver. So I would say that's a big one. If I could pick a second and be a bit cheeky with it, it's got to be the strength in a trio. We are historically, as a society, we are too overly focused on weaknesses and threats, and we're not making time to better leverage those strengths. So what are our strengths within the team? How can we get people working, swapping tasks around around publicising and talking about and sharing their strengths and weaknesses with each other, encouraging that teamwork, collaboration? And then how can we use those strengths more often for more time overall? And number 3, what else can we do to get even stronger at those strengths?
That's great, thank you.
If there are any other questions, if we do run out of time, if you send those questions through to Amy or her team, I can reply remotely through the follow-up, or you can also message me on LinkedIn. I don't bite, honestly, but I do love to help. So that offer's available should you wish.
Thank you ever so much, Daryl. So I'm just going to finish the call just by saying that we will send out some correspondence to everybody that signed up to the event. So if you do want to ask Daryl any questions, feel free to reply to that email and I can forward the questions on for you. I'm also going to put a post on LinkedIn about today's event. As we don't charge for them, if you could please like, comment, share your any activity would be appreciated, just to raise our brand awareness. We also have a guild networking app for HR professionals. It's a bit like WhatsApp, where members can ask questions, network and share ideas. I'll send you out a link on the email after. I'll also put that on the email. So if you haven't already joined, feel free. I think we've got over 700 members on there now, so it's doing well. Excuse me. And if anyone is recruiting, we've also got accountancy recruit and FD recruit in the group. So feel free to contact me and I can put you in contact with the right consultant. And finally, a massive thank you to Daryl for your time. You've been brilliant as always, and to all the listeners for tuning in.